Okay, generally, how did you feel about rehab? Do you feel like it was nice and comfortable or kind of cold?
So, how I felt about rehab when I first got there, I was so exhausted. I didn't really care. And then as I went, it wasn't cold and it wasn't awesome, but it was safe. And what's great about that is you're just isolated, and all you're having to deal with is you. And you don't have every other thing driving somebody here, cooking dinner, going to work, whatever. And so I felt above all that the reason I loved it is because it was safe. For 30 days, I was safe from myself, from other people, and it was amazing. My treatment center was amazing. Not everybody has the same story.
Did you not get kind of stir crazy at some point?
I did not get stir crazy at all. Um, but I will tell you that a lot of people smoke, and they smoke a lot. And I was the only person that didn't smoke. And I've never smoked. And by the end, I have to admit, I kind of wanted to start smoking. Because you do at the end. Because I was actually worried about going and not having that safety net and not being confident enough in what I'd learned to be able to practice it in real life. But everybody made this big thing and said, don't let Darcy smoke. Don't give her a cigarette. Don't start. So, no, still not smoking.
So, if it didn't make you stir crazy, what kind of activities did they have planned?
Well, I'll tell you that your whole day is filled. So you wake up early, 6:30, breakfast. There's tons of classes. There's acupuncture. You work out. Um, yeah, there's everything. I went to a nice place. This is not like, and then you go to class. You go to DBT. You have meditation. It is all day until 9 o'clock at night. Your hours are filled. There's like 15 minutes and there's lunch, but there isn't a lot of time to just kind of like sit around and have, any spare time.
Do you think that was intentional?
Yes,
Do you
it's
think it helped
easier.
you?
Being busy all day.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that I think what helped me not only was keeping busy, because I got there, I wasn't, unlike a lot of the people I was with, I wasn't, jonesing to use. I wasn't sitting there going, oh my God, how, it wasn't like that for me. So for me, it was all about learning. And what happens is if you learn that long, it's not that effective, which is why they break it up with, like I said, tapping, EDMR, other thing. Oh, there was horse therapy, equine therapy. Yeah. Um, there was a lot of different things to do all day, and they tried to break that up with some fun things. There was art. We painted like rocks, and so it was a good mix of everything. And sometimes you had like individual therapy, and sometimes you had group therapy, and then sometimes you had smaller group therapy, and sometimes you were outside. Sometimes, so I mean, intentionally they keep you busy because that's what an addict needs. But for me, I was just so excited to learn everything I could about how to change my life.
And in terms of like types of therapy, like you mentioned DBT, do you remember any other types that they used, or did they mainly just focus on DBT?
Well, what they did was they talked in group about a lot of overall concepts. And then you got assigned your own therapist and psychiatrist. And so then they kind of pointed you into the direction of the things that may help you. So while maybe, in some rehabs there's only one thing to do, there were 5 things going on at mine. So if I wanted, and I concentrated just because of how I answered questions on my intake, that DBT or dialectical behavior therapy or cognitive CBT, those two, and then tapping and anything that had to do with trauma and PTSD I took. And I forgot the rest of the question.
No, it's okay. How do you feel like CBT and DBT helped you in the long run? Like, what have you gained from it?
Well, I can honestly, if you allow your brain to kind of stop and engage in what you learned, I often find that I do in CBT, I identify what I'm doing. In other words, I am a big storyteller, and anytime something horrific happens to me, I make a mountain into a molehill. It's what I do, or I run. And those are the two things. And so I can identify the behaviors that I'm using. And then obviously I try to stop myself from doing those. But then I more or less go over to the DBT side of it, and I say, I'm going to ride this wave. I'm going to choose happiness. I'm going to radically accept something. And so those two things together are what helped me and why I think I'm relatively successful.
DBT has always kind of confused me because I know it has to do with kind of like accepting the good and bad parts of life and just embracing whatever comes. But it seems like it's almost in conflict with CBT in a way because, you know, when you're having like doubts or something's making you anxious, it seems like CBT tells you to reframe that, whereas DBT tells you to embrace that.
I see your point.
Do you ever like feel a conflict
I
there?
don't, because I think I do a hybrid of my own, and it's because it's what's worked for me. And but what I like about DBT, even though it does say, look, just accept it, I don't think for me it tells me to accept it. I think it's telling me that that's the state of things. I want to use and I want to stay sober. You know, so that there's two things that can be true in any given time period, or in a relationship. Both people are in pain, like in a divorce. I'm in pain. No, you can't be in pain. No, both people can be in pain. And I think that helps you just say, it's the fact of your life. But then you rely on CBT to reframe it, as you said.
That makes a lot of sense. Actually, switch shots.